To the people of Baltimore and the demonstrators across America, I heard your call for no justice, no peace. Your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of this young man. To those that are angry, hurt, or have their own experiences of injustice at the hands of police officers, I urge you to channel the energy peacefully as we prosecute this case. I have heard your calls for no justice, no peace. However, your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of Freddie Gray.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's how it was this morning in Baltimore. The state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, announcing that all 6 officers involved in the death of Freddie Gray have been charged. As of this moment, we are told all 6 are in custody. One, the driver of the van, charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter, second-degree assault, 2 vehicular manslaughter charges, and misconduct in office. They were all charged. I was struck by not only the speed of these charges, but I was struck by the what I viewed as activism by this state's attorney. And I want you to listen to the next soundbite here and watch her as she says this.
To the youth of this city, I will seek justice on your behalf. This is a moment. This is your moment. Let's ensure that we have peaceful and productive rallies that will develop structural and systemic changes for generations to come. You're at the forefront of this cause. And as young people, our time is now.
Is what she said. All right, let's talk about the charges, and let's talk about what I view as over-the-top personal activism, and there's also some conflict of interest charges leveled against her as well. As we welcome in the one and only Alan Dershowitz, legendary Harvard Law professor, Newsmax contributor, author of Terror Tunnels, The Case for Israel's Just War Against Hamas. Alan, welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on.
All right, what's your reaction to the expedited announcement early this morning?
Well, this is a very sad day for justice. In the United States, in Baltimore and in Maryland, today had nothing to do with justice. Today was crowd control. Everything was motivated by a threat of riots and a desire to prevent riots. The mayor outrageously said we're going to get justice for the victim, for the family, for the people of Baltimore, never mentioning the defendants. Under our Constitution, the only people who are entitled to justice are the defendants. They are presumed innocent. They need due process of law. The mayor and the state attorney have made it virtually impossible for these defendants to get a fair trial. They have been presumed guilty. The crowds have been saying that unless they're convicted, they'll be. Some in the crowd have said the only reason we got these indictments is because we rioted. They may very well be right. Today had nothing to do with justice. Today had to do with crowd control, and there is an incompatibility between crowd control and justice. Look, I understand why a mayor and a state attorney want to prevent riots. I understand that. But that's not the job of the justice system. For example, if you have a case where you know for 100% certainty that an acquittal will result in a riot, but the evidence doesn't support conviction, you must bring about an acquittal.
Right.
Then you control the riots. But you cannot allow police officers or any other defendants to become scapegoats for crowds who are demanding a continuation of rioting.
Well, Alan, do you make this statement based upon the speed of the charges brought forth, or the depth of the validity of the charges as you see them, or her what I view as activism?
Well, 3 things. First, the nature of her statement. It was not at all about justice for the defendants. Even the ACLU issued a statement today praising the indictments, not mentioning the presumption of innocence or proof beyond a reasonable doubt or due process. That's the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, which has become a politically correct organization when it comes to these kinds of issues. The other thing that makes me concerned is, of course, the fact that they were charged with murder. There's no plausible, hypothetical, conceivable case for murder under the facts that we now know them. You might say that conceivably there's a case for manslaughter. Plainly, nobody wanted this guy to die. Nobody set out to kill him. Nobody intentionally murdered him. The worst case scenario is a case for involuntary manslaughter or, some kind of reckless disregard. But the idea of, without further investigation, coming down with murder indictments against 2 people, this is a show trial. This is designed to please the crowd. It's designed to lower the temperature. It's all admirable, but it has nothing to do with justice. Nothing.
All right, Alan. So I've heard it speculated that she charges the one with the second-degree murder, a bunch of them with manslaughter, in hopes of getting some of them to turn against the others. Is this a game that they could legitimately be playing and would be a normal type of game?
It's a game they can illegitimately be playing. That's been tried before. It's wrong. It's unethical. It's in violation of the rules of professional responsibility to overcharge in order to get cooperation or a plea. But I don't think that's what's going on. I think this was designed to please the crowd. This was designed to lower the temperature on the street. And if there had been only manslaughter indictments, some people would have said, this is murder, you can't. But you have 2 murder indictments and then the rest manslaughter indictments. The result was as intended. The crowds have been satisfied. They satisfied the crowds. That's not the criteria of justice in America. It may have been the criteria in Rome. It may have been the criteria for Fidel Castro. It may have been the criteria in Iran. It may be the criteria in other countries. But in our country, you don't base indictments on what impact it's going to have on the crowd. You base it on a hard, neutral, objective view of the evidence. And it doesn't look like that was done here.
Now, if this case goes to trial, let me ask you, does her saying this is our time, and putting herself into this, in addition to forget the other conflict of interest that people have raised, that she has a relationship with a lawyer who is very close to the Gray family.
Oh, yeah.
Can a defense attorney play that back in court?
Oh, there's no question. No question. First, there'll be a move to have her removed as prosecutor. And I think that should succeed. Second, there'll be a move to change the venue. And when that happens, there'll be complaints because it might move to a place with a different demographic and a jury that may contain more white people and fewer African Americans. So this is a mess. They have invited a mess. What they did is they bartered short-term results today for long-term problems in the future. My prediction, I think they've overplayed their hand. I think it's unlikely they'll get any convictions in this case as a result of this. And if they do, there's a good possibility it'll be reversed on appeal, and we'll just postpone the riots for, months ahead. Well, I think they have mortgaged the future for the present.
And one final question, Alan. Thank you for your generous amount of time. And that was my next question. And, of course, this is not your area of expertise, you're rioting and whatnot. But if you raise the people's hopes based on trumped-up charges and situations that cannot be carried out in a court of law, aren't you only going to make it worse when the law is carried out and not guilty verdicts are rendered?
Yeah, but by that time, she's already run for Congress or mayor or, this is what happened with Corey. Remember Prosecutor Corey?
Yes.
In the Zimmerman case. She raised the stakes, she over-indicted, and she ended up with an acquittal. That's what happens. When you over-indict, the jury gets really, really angry. You lose your credibility, and you lose the possibility of getting a reasonable verdict. It's happened all over Florida. It happened in Florida in at least 3 or 4 cases where overcharging has resulted in acquittals of people who probably should have been convicted. And I suspect we're going to see some of that here. But, that doesn't matter because the decision today was based on politics, on crowd control, on an immediate result today. She has succeeded, both the mayor and the state attorney. They've succeeded beyond all expectations, and they're going to get tremendous positive results. And who will remember that a year or 2 years from now when there are acquittals or reversals on appeal or pleas to relatively minor offenses?
Right. Alan, great talking to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Alan Dershowitz, ladies and gentlemen. And boy, am I glad to hear him say what he said. Am I glad to hear him say what he said? And we like to divide things into liberal, conservative. Alan Dershowitz is no conservative, okay? And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense or anything else. He knows the law. On politics and other things, you might not agree with him, but he knows the law probably better than anybody else in this country, or at least as well as anybody else in this country. And what he just said is devastating, devastating. And as a layman who always wanted to be a lawyer, it makes perfect sense. We're going to continue this conversation with David Clark, Sheriff of Milwaukee County. Don't go away.